I don't think I finished writing the script. I didn't give this episode a score. Holy crap. I didn't finish writing the script. Okay, good. Fine. I finished the episode review part. Okay. The entire pros and cons section is going to be ad-libbed. That'll be fun. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review. While it's becoming abundantly clear that I'm not going to be able to finish reviewing this 40-episode show before Beast Morphers returns, I've got to keep my nose to the wheel, right? Let's take a moment to talk about rats. Rats are one of the most divisive animals in nature. Some people see them as disgusting, disease-carrying sewer dwellers with sharp teeth and sharp claws. Others see them as adorable, basically larger mice that are cute, fluffy little soft creatures. So, where do I stand? I stand very firmly in the latter camp. Rats are absolutely adorable. I've had several rats as pets, and they actually make better pets than mice or hamsters. They're nicer and smarter. Rats are one of the smartest pets that you can actually have. They can learn their names, they can learn how to do tricks, and they love cuddles and scritches. Scritches right behind. Anyway, I will say if you are planning to get a rat as a pet, number one, please make sure you get one from a verified rescue instead of a pet store. And number two, please make sure you have the finances in place for proper veterinary care. Rats can get some unfortunately extensive and rather expensive diseases for vets to take care of.
Help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered.
So, why did I suddenly bring up rats? Well, let's take a look at the 10th episode of Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, The Rat. And suddenly, we're right back to the Today on Sentinels intro. You know that one of my biggest pet peeves with shows like this is consistency. Either do the intro every week or just don't bother with it anymore. Anyway, it spoils the plot, so we're going to pass. Another week, another episode that starts on Molecula. Gorganis is growing tired of the game of cat and mouse. Heyo! With the Sentinels, he sends a monster, they defeat it, we grow them, they blow them, etc., etc. So he has decided to send a monster to get defeated because that's just how the evil mind works. And hey, we've got a brand new monster this week. Not many of those left, I will spoil. The monster's name is Culebra, and it's basically a snake, cobra, dog kind of a thing. The plan is that it breathes fire, so it's going to raise the Earth's temperature and roast the Sentinels, as well as anything else alive, off of Earth. At the cafe, yeah, there's actually a number of reasons that this scene doesn't actually work, but let me roll it out for you for starters. Swinton is working on a science fair project where he has a rat run a maze. It demonstrates the theory of rewarding good behavior and punishing bad behavior. The thing is, the rat won't actually finish the maze by going into a hamster wheel, which would power a tape recorder that would play a song. The project has drawn a crowd in the cafe for some reason, before Drew kind of properly walks over and breaks everything up, because that is a loose rat in an establishment that sells food. Number one, that's not a rat, that is a mouse. Number two, that is an albino mouse, so it's probably mostly blind. Number three, you're telling me that a crowd of Beverly Hills teenagers had nothing better to do than stand and watch a rat run a maze? Lori, Swinton, and Drew kind of banter back and forth about whether or not the rat, Darwin, is actually cute, and then Gordon walks up. He teases Swinton about the geekiness of all this, and says he doesn't see this looking very good on Swinton's Princeton application. Swinton kind of finally snaps here, having had it with Gordon, and fires back, saying he has won every science fair that he has ever entered, and that is not going to stop this year. Gordon shoots back that at least he has more relevant life skills. What? Swinton says. Like how to apply hair gel? Gordon does not have a response to that. The episode cuts over to Culebra for literally 5 seconds to let us know that, yeah, he's still setting fire to rocks. At school, Swinton gets Darwin out for a second, but then his tattoo flashes. The others catch up with him and they realize the portal is once again in the girls' restroom, but this time that fact is not mentioned. They all go to run in, but Gordon stops. I thought for a second he was hesitating about going into the girls' bathroom again, but that's not it. He goes back to Swinton's locker and gets the rat, bringing him along. In the cave, Nimbar says, Culebra has returned.
Close your mouth and stop talking.
You know, at this point, I think that Ninjabot was the only monster that was introduced on the show without them saying that they had fought it previously, and that's because that was the first episode of the entire show. Gordon sets the rat aside as Nimbar says that he doesn't know Culebra's new powers yet, and tells them to gather information, only fighting the monster if they see a clear weakness. However, Culebra breathes fire at the Sentinels as soon as they arrive, and it's too hot for them to even approach the monster, let alone fight it, so they are forced to retreat. Back in the cave, Swinton theorizes that since snakes are cold-blooded, Culebra must be getting the energy for its heat attacks from the sun. Nimbar says if that's true, all they have to do is wait for sunset. Which is now.
When night falls,
It gets dark 5 seconds later as Gordon goes to check on the rat. They can somehow see that the monster has gotten weaker, so they get right back on the transo discs and transform once again. And they beam into some darkened footage. Okay, this time I'm actually kidding. They did change the lighting instead of just darkening the footage. Scorpio says not to let the monster escape into one of those caves or they'll lose it.
Excuse me, did you just say?
One of those caves? This monster is the size of a skyscraper. These are giant battles. Remember, everybody's the size of a building. What caves outside Beverly Hills can hide a monster that's the size of a building? Anyway, it does seem to back away towards where I guess the giant monster-sized caves are, but the Sentinels blast the monster and it teleports away. The Sentinels return to the cave and celebrate their victory. Swinton says he hates to cut and run, but he needs to get back to work on his science project, and they all leave, Gordon grabbing the rat before going through the portal. Lori, Swinton, and Drew emerge from the portal, Drew saying she's late for work, and Lori saying she has to study or something, I didn't catch it. Swinton goes to grab Darwin, but he's gone. And this is where I had to reach for the Tylenol. We hear the portal sound again, and then we hear Gordon go, "Down here!" Swinton looks, and all of a sudden, the rat and his cage are sitting in the bottom of his locker.
Excuse me, what?
So, somebody want to explain to me how exactly that works? The portal was in the bathroom on the other side of the hallway. What actually happened, which I'll explain in a second, does not explain how the rat in the cage slid out of the bathroom through a door all the way across the hallway and then up into the bottom of the locker. Oh, and it also apparently changed the species of the animal because now it is a rat. So, what did happen? Yeah, Gordon going down here might have given this away. He speaks from Darwin's body, saying he's got to talk to Swinton about something. At Drew's house, the three of them wonder just what exactly has happened. Besides the obvious, Gordon is now trapped in Darwin's body. Swinton can't figure it out either, but he does get a clue to something and asks if Gordon might have any ideas how this could have happened. Gordon confesses to stealing the rat, saying he was planning to give it right back just as soon as Swinton got a little scare over the whole thing. Why would Gordon do something like that? Drew knows why. Swinton got Gordon with that hair gel crack and Gordon was salty over it. Lori asks if Gordon will change back, and Swinton, seeing absolutely no reason to make Gordon feel any better about the situation, says he's not really sure. Quick little scene on Molecula where Gorganis powers up Culebra because apparently it never occurs to him to send monsters to Earth in their most powerful state. I guess Zordon's rule about escalation transcends realities, too. Back at Drew's house, Swinton has Gordon running the maze. Yes, he's not going to let the fact that his fellow Sentinel is trapped in the body of his rat, which is turned back into a mouse, by the way, stop him from winning that science fair. He punishes Gordon by showing him a picture of a cat and offers to reward him with cheese and pizza. The other two Sentinels actually get in line with this after Swinton promises to try to figure out how to get this solved. But before Gordon can finish the maze, their tattoos flash and they take off, with Swinton placing Gordon back into Darwin's cage to bring him along. In the cave, the Sentinels realize that they are going to have to explain this to Nimbar. Gordon and Swinton blame each other because Gordon is a prideful jackass, but Lori explains the situation neutrally. Nimbar says that Q Libra has returned, and he has actually returned this time, and is now more powerful. He wants to send them to fight, but Gordon says, wait a second, you said you were going to figure something out about my situation. Nimbar says he has figured something out, telling the Sentinels to place the rat cage on Gordon's transodisc. In a moment that nearly made me fall off my chair laughing, they run the 4 Sentinel transformation sequence with the fast zoom in on the rat cage as Gordon calls out, "Taurus!" Of course, it doesn't work. There's probably some kind of DNA lock involved with the transodiscs. You can remember that they can transform into each other's Sentinels with the whole body swap episode, but you probably have to have the right DNA to transform at all. After this, the episode kind of cuts around a bit as the Sentinels realize that Taurus isn't coming, then Gorganis realizes that Taurus isn't coming, and then we see Nimbar using that creepy freaking hand trying to separate the DNA of the rat and the man, and it's not working. We weren't missing anything in the fight scene because it's the same thing we usually get. The Sentinels blast the monster with their weapons, the monster blasts their weapons away, and the Sentinels act shocked that this has happened yet again. Then Taurus just portals into the battlefield like he was just running a couple of minutes late. He blasts at the monster, who turns to him, grabs his staff, and throws him with it, taking the staff. For a second, I thought he was actually going to use the weapon, but then he just drops it. Apollo says that they should form Nitron, and they try, but for the first time, the transformation sequence fails. It actually just kind of stops after the flashing back and forth Nitron thing. Apollo says that something's clearly wrong. No kidding. With Taurus, that part does make sense, so Taurus should go back to Nimbar. So apparently Nimbar was listening in, as he usually does, and heard this and opened a portal, but gosh darn it, it's behind the monster. Now, the whole issue with whether or not Nimbar can target portals aside, portals on the big stage have never seemed to operate the exact same way as the small ones. We don't get a visualization. There's no floaty, shiny circle. Things just seem to teleport away, like a transporter. Anyway, Apollo says that he'll be the reward, flipping in to distract the monster, while Taurus jumps over to the portal site and heads back to the cave. In the cave, Gordon beams in, with the rat sitting right below him. You see, there's your problem right there. Basically, they're using the portal system as a filter for the DNA, which at first didn't seem to make sense because the portal caused this problem in the first place, but later on they're going to explain that they inverted the portals, whatever that means. Now, Gordon sets the rat aside, and it should be just his DNA going through the portal, so they should be able to form Nitron. Returning to the battlefield, Taurus says that they should try to form Nitron again, so they do, and of course this time it works. Short Nitron fight once again, but I actually liked this one a lot better. It was at least very back and forth. They zap at each other, Nitron swings its sword at the monster, but it dodges around, it knocks the shield away. Finally, Nitron grabs the monster by the tail, body slams the thing, and delivers the final zap, making it teleport away. In the cave, Nimbar congratulates the Sentinels, especially Swinton, for figuring out that Taurus needed a second trip through the portal wash to be totally human again. Gordon humbly agrees, saying that if this was a science contest, Swinton won. Not exactly an apology, is it? The Sentinels realize that somebody's going to have to carry the rat back to Earth through the portals, but of course, none of them want to do that. Nimbar says that he can take care of that by portaling the rat back to Earth first. In the cafe, we find out that Swinton won that science fair, Amazing Gordon. Swinton says it was no thanks to Gordon, but Gordon points out that he helped Darwin figure out how to finish the maze. Well, actually, Gordon said that he convinced Darwin that he could figure it out, but that doesn't make the first bit of sense, so I'm going to go with what I said. Swinton realizes that Darwin has escaped, and we hear a series of screams from around the cafe from the exact same teens that were excitedly watching this rat go through a maze earlier, before Darwin returns to Swinton and puts him back in the maze, and everybody laughs because comedy, I guess.
That was not funny.
Well, it's a rat's life, etc., so let's read the... Wait! I rarely pay attention to the credits for these episodes, which are included on the DVD. I usually just stop the video as they start rolling. But something very early on in the credits caught my eye, and I froze it here. This episode featured a guest appearance by Susan Morgenstern as the vice principal. Except this episode did not feature a guest appearance by Susan Morgenstern as the vice principal because there was no vice principal in this episode. They couldn't even keep their credits straight. Read the signs! Episode 10, The Rat. Pros: stronger, more confident Swinton, more tension and drama, and a more creative problem. Cons: character assassination of Gordon, no redemption from that assassination, and goofy science. Tempted to give this a 3, but both the rat and the mouse were really cute, so the rat gets 3.5 signs out of 5. One thing that people really like about the progression of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers over its first couple of seasons is seeing the character growth of Billy, turning from a weak, timid little nerd into the more athletic and confident nerd that he was in later seasons. We are seeing something like that very similar right now with Swinton. This episode feels like a real turning point for him, and we'll see if they follow through with it. But his aggression towards Gordon specifically when he was being teased just shows that real change in confidence and growth in his character, as he's not going to put up with that crap anymore, even from a fellow Sentinel. And that tension between the two of them is actually another positive point for this episode. That exchange between Gordon and Swinton was so tense and nasty, it actually really reminded me of the similar exchange between Lori and Drew when Lori was under mind control, and that kind of drama is just something that Power Rangers didn't do very much, and it just really adds to the emotion of the episode and the feelings that you have about these characters. Swinton had clearly grown tired of, let's not beat around the bush here, Gordon's bullying of him, and when he finally cracked back, Gordon was clearly shocked and hurt by it, not expecting such a reaction from what he probably saw as friendly teasing of a buddy and a pal. He didn't expect to actually get cracked back like that, which motivated him to put this plan into place to get Swinton back for it. I'm going to speak about his character in a moment, but overall, that was just very interesting for this episode. And in general, it just really feels like this was a point where the writers realized that they had to get a little bit more creative with the problems that the team would run into. This isn't running out of fuel. This isn't something's wrong with the portals. We can't keep reusing those ideas. We have to come up with new ones, especially as Power Rangers was doing weirder kind of something's wrong with the Rangers, magical, etc., etc. So they had to kind of keep up with that. One of the Sentinels being turned into a rat for scientific reasons rather than magical ones was kind of interesting, and I wanted to see how it would resolve. But all of the points that we added to Swinton's character sheet this week didn't appear out of thin air. We robbed them from Gordon's character sheet. Gordon's character just took a really big hit today. As I just explained a little bit, I understand the motivations behind his thinking, being really hurt by what Swinton said and wanting to get him back for it. But again, Gordon is somebody that is kind of looked at as a potential leader of this team, and that's not the kind of behavior you want to see from your leader. It just didn't really fit with some of the more positive moments that we've had from Gordon thus far. And making matters worse enough to warrant an entire second con is that Gordon gets absolutely no redemption from that character assassination. He gets that one little line in the cave, "If this had been a science competition, you would have won." That is not an apology. He never apologizes for what he did. Again, when they were explaining the situation to Nimbar, he blamed Swinton, even though Swinton had done nothing wrong, except for the crack earlier, which again was a response to bullying. So really, Gordon didn't have a leg to stand on there. It ties into the first con. It just brings down a significant peg that he was that petty and mean and cruel even to mess with somebody's pet. And the end of the episode doesn't even give us any redemption for that. He's still that same character at the end. And I know this is kind of a staple of this show and one of the things that I and other people love about it, but the science did get rather gobbledygook and kind of confusing this time around. Two primary examples of that come to mind. The first is the crux of the entire episode, that the portal's magnetic field caused the DNA of two animals to combine, which was really more the spirit of one person going into the body of a different animal, and that somehow reversing that and running it twice is what fixed the problem.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
I know I say it basically at the end of every episode, and I'm going to try not to say it to keep things creative. I'm going to say it this time, but I'm going to qualify it a little bit and explain why it's different. This episode managed to surprise me yet again. However, in this case, it wasn't really tied into the plot as much as it usually is. In most cases where I've been really surprised by an episode of the show, it's because there was a deep character note that tied into the plot. In this case, that's really only tangential, and I'm talking about the tension of that confrontation between Gordon and Swinton. It just really kind of lightly touches on bullying, on how a bully can see it as friendly teasing, but the one getting bullied isn't seeing it that way. What happens in a bully's mind when their victim finally turns around and gives it right back. What kind of revenge plots they can have. It is slightly deeper. Power Rangers has touched on bullying a lot, a number of times. It's one of their bigger themes, but I don't feel it went into this level of depth. And while they didn't really mention that as a key factor in this episode, it was just something that stood out to me. Especially the fact that one of the main heroes of the show was the one doing the bullying. You may recall that in the past I mentioned a discrepancy between the episode list for the show on Wikipedia and the order of the episodes on the DVD. So now, of course, I'm checking that every time I start to write the next time summary. This instance, as we move from disc 1 to disc 2, happens to have the biggest discrepancy between these episodes I've seen yet. The 11th episode listed on the DVDs, again the first episode on disc 2, so its position feels a little more secure, is listed as the 22nd episode on Wikipedia. I would really like to know where they got this episode list and which of the two is actually correct. But in any case, let's take a peek at the 11th episode of Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, The Ghost Warrior. Emperor Gorganas sends the Sorcerer to Earth, disguised as Taurus, in order to make a public appearance in a plot to lure out the Galactic Sentinels. That is going to wrap up another Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review. Heroes, thank you so much as always for watching. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it. Whose side were you on in the big Gordon versus Swinton debate? Was Swinton wasting his time with that kind of science fair project? Or is winning all those science fairs good for his college application? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button, letting me know that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all of my videos, and ring that bell. Get your notifications set up so you will be notified by A, by B, and by C of when I post brand new videos such as these Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode reviews. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, you can head over to ko-fi.com/orangerangervideos and buy me a coffee. Those are set at $3, and I greatly appreciate any support I find at that site. Until next time, heroes, may the power portals protect you. And number 2, please make sure you have the finances for proper veterinary care. Rats can get some rather extensive experience at school. Nimbar theorizes, no, it was Swinton that theorized. Fart on my head and call it a day. They look down there, and the rat, Swinton looks down. Oh yes, he's not going to let the fact that his fellow Sentinel is trapped in a rat stop him. Oh shoot. Back at Drew's house, Swinton and is now more powerful. The Sentinels realize that somebody's going to have to carry the rat back to the real world. That didn't make any sense. Well, it's a rat's life, etc., etc. So let's read the... Oh, I have to do the hand thing. And those are set at $3, and I greatly support any support that I supported. That's supporty support. Ow. And if you'd like to head to... Anger is an emotion. I am a Vulcan. Oh, but I'm a crazy Vulcan, so it works. Whose side were you on in the big Gordon versus Swinton debate in this episode? Was Gordon right in saying that Swinton...